Some gifts are given before they can be understood. There is an old story from the Russian forests of a small girl whose mother gave her a wooden doll before she died and told her to keep it close. The girl was beautiful. The girl was good. And the girl, before her childhood was over, would walk alone through the great dark forest and stand at a fence made of skulls and look into the eyes of the witch named Baba Yaga. This is the story of Vasilisa the Beautiful, and tonight you will hear how a mother's blessing carried a daughter through the dark. Vasilisa was 8 years old when her mother began to die. The merchant's house was warm with candlelight, and the snow was high against the shutters, and her mother lay in the big carved bed and held her daughter's hand. From beneath her pillow, she drew out a small thing wrapped in a square of red cloth. It was a doll, no bigger than a child's hand, carved from pale wood, with bright painted eyes, and a tiny red kerchief on her head, and a small embroidered apron. "Bless you, my daughter," the mother said. "Take this doll. Keep her hidden where no one will see her. Whenever you are in trouble, whenever you do not know what to do, give her a little of your food and ask her for help. She will tell you what to do." Vasilisa took the doll. She kissed her mother's cool hand. By morning, the mother was gone. The merchant grieved for a year, and then he married again. The new wife came into the house with 2 daughters of her own. They were not ugly, but they were not kind. The stepmother smiled at Vasilisa in front of the father and pinched her when his back was turned. She gave Vasilisa the cold corner of the kitchen to sleep in. She gave her the heaviest work of the house, hauling water from the well before dawn, scrubbing the stone floors, carrying wood, mending the others' clothes. The 2 sisters watched and laughed. The stepmother had one quiet hope, that Vasilisa would wither and fade and die. But every night Vasilisa took out the small wooden doll from her bundle, and she gave the doll a piece of bread and a sip of milk, and the doll's painted eyes shone in the dark, and the doll did half the work while Vasilisa slept. So Vasilisa did not wither. She grew tall and she grew lovely, and the stepmother hated her more for it. One winter, the merchant went away on a long journey. The stepmother saw her chance. She moved the household to a small house at the very edge of the great forest, the forest where Baba Yaga was said to live. The forest where no one went, and from which no one came back. One evening at dusk, when the wind was high in the pines, the stepmother sent her 2 daughters to bed, and she put out every fire in the house. Every candle, every lamp, every coal in the hearth. The house went black. Only one small thin taper still burned in her own hand. Then she called Vasilisa, and she smiled in the small light. "Child," she said, "we have no fire. Someone must go into the forest, to the hut of Baba Yaga, and bring back fire. My daughters are asleep. You will go." Vasilisa knew that no one came back from Baba Yaga's hut. She went to her bundle, and she took out the wooden doll, and she fed her, and she asked for help. The doll's eyes shone. "Do not be afraid," the doll said. "I will go with you. Take me and walk." Vasilisa walked into the forest. The trees grew taller and darker around her. The path narrowed. The cold was deep. She walked all night. As the sky was beginning to pale, she heard hoofbeats behind her. She turned. A rider on a white horse went past her, a white cloak streaming, white as bone, white as the new snow. And as he passed, the dawn broke over the forest, and the sky went gray-silver, and the night was gone. She walked on through the morning. As the sun stood at its highest, she heard hoofbeats again. A second rider passed her. He was on a red horse. His cloak was red as fire, red as poppies, red as fresh blood. And as he passed, the sun blazed up and the cold day grew bright. She walked all afternoon, and at last she came to a clearing. Inside the clearing stood a fence of human bones, with skulls set on top of each post. And inside the fence was a small hut on enormous yellow chicken legs. She had reached the witch's house. At that moment, hoofbeats again. A third rider. Black horse, black cloak, black as night. And as he passed, the day went dark, and the eyes of the skulls on the fence began to glow with a soft, terrible firelight. The fence skull's eyes turned to look at her. The chicken legs shifted under the hut, slowly, the way a sleeping animal shifts in its sleep. And then, from far off in the forest, came a sound that froze Vasilisa where she stood. It was the sound of a wind, and a chariot, and a screaming. Baba Yaga was coming home. She came not on a horse, but in a great iron mortar, driving herself along with a pestle, and sweeping her tracks behind her with a broom of birch twigs. Her hair was the white of dead grass. Her eyes were not kind. Her nose was long and bent. She stopped at the gate and she sniffed the air. "I smell a Russian girl," she said. "Come out, child." Vasilisa stepped forward and she bowed low. "Grandmother," she said, "my stepmother has sent me to ask for fire." Baba Yaga looked at her a long time. Then she laughed, dry as old paper. "You will not get fire for nothing," she said. "You will work for me. If you do the work I give you, you will have your fire and your life. If you do not, I will eat your bones." She set Vasilisa to impossible tasks, to sweep the whole yard, to wash the witch's linens, to sort a great heap of poppy seed from a great heap of dirt, grain by grain, before the witch returned at evening. And then she rode away into the trees. Vasilisa sat down in the dust of the yard, and she put her face in her hands, and for the first time in many years, she nearly cried. Then she remembered. She took the small wooden doll from her pocket, and she gave her a crust of bread, and she asked very quietly for help. The doll's eyes shone. "Sleep, Vasilisa," the doll said. "I will do what must be done." So Vasilisa slept just where she sat against the wall of the hut. And while she slept, the small wooden doll worked all afternoon. The yard was swept. The witch's linens were washed and folded. Every grain of poppy seed was lifted from every grain of dirt and laid in its own neat pile by hands no eye could see. When Baba Yaga came back, she walked through her yard and she looked at the work, and her old face went very still. She turned to Vasilisa. "You have a blessing on you," she said. "I do not keep blessed children. Take your fire and go." She lifted one of the skulls from the fence. The eye sockets were full of soft, terrible firelight. She pushed it into Vasilisa's arms. "Carry this home to your stepmother," she said. "That is the fire she asked for." Vasilisa carried the skull all night through the forest. The skull's eyes lit her path. When she came at last to the house at the edge of the wood, her stepmother and the two sisters were standing in the dark doorway, waiting. The eyes of the skull turned upon them. By morning, where they had stood, there was only a small pile of fine ash, and the empty house behind. Vasilisa buried the skull beneath a great pine tree at the edge of the yard. She gathered her bundle and her doll, and she walked into the nearest town. There she came to the door of a kind old woman who lived alone, and she asked if she might stay and earn her bread. The old woman, who had wanted a daughter and never had one, took her in gladly. That winter, Vasilisa wove. She had learned weaving from her mother before her mother died, and now she sat at the loom by the small window and her hands moved, and the small wooden doll helped her, and what came off her loom was a cloth so fine and so white that it could pass through a wedding ring. The old woman took the cloth to the market. The market took it to the merchants. The merchants took it to the Tsar. The Tsar looked at the cloth. "No one in my kingdom," he said, "can sew a shirt fine enough for this cloth. Send me the one who wove it." The old woman brought Vasilisa to the palace. She sewed the Tsar his shirt with her own hands. And when the Tsar lifted his eyes from the shirt to the girl who had made it, he forgot the shirt entirely. They were married before the next snow. Vasilisa kept the wooden doll in a small carved box by her bed for the rest of her long life. And when she had daughters of her own, she gave each of them, on the day they were born, a small piece of red cloth, and she told them what it meant. Some blessings, the people of those forests say, are not gifts at all. They are promises. And a promise kept by a mother is a fire that will not go out. This was Forgotten Fables. Follow the channel when you want the next story the loud world forgot.